Tonight on Joy News Prime, we're just about a month to the referendum to allow political parties participation in local government elections. There appears to be a strong surge in the popularity of the no campaigners.
Where is the division? When you go to assemblies, NDC, MPP people are there. Are they divided? Is it divided? When you go to parliament, MPP, NDC people are there. Are they divided?
I know what Brexit is all about. They said, oh, let's vote, leave or remain. Once we have done it, the rest will be accommodated. Have they been accommodated? Look at the confusion in UK governance now. That is precisely what we are trying to prevent in Ghana.
The electorate, meanwhile, appear confused.
No, I'm not aware. I don't know anything about referendum. No, I don't have any idea about that.
They said they are going to vote for yes and no of AMC or so, and I don't know what does that mean.
We hope to clear up that confusion tonight as the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education joins us in studio.
Ghana Union of Traders Association wants government to fast-track process of retrieving locked-up funds with collapsed banks.
Really happy for one fact that the benchmark 50% reduction was maintained.
Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority challenges figures reported by Joy News on the extent of import duty lost to the state as a result of under-declaration of clinker import, adding that their side of the story was not told. The producers have maintained otherwise.
Bulk operators, yes, I will accept that we don't have the kind of weighing bridge that can establish the gross weight of the bulk that is coming through our ports.
We'll also hear from the production team in the bulletin. I'm Israel Lion. Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio here in Accra with digital address GA09925339. Stay tuned in. Kenyans are set to go to the polls on December 17 to elect unit committee members and assembly members and also decide in a referendum whether to allow political parties participation in local government elections going forward. That's Article 55(3) of the Constitution, which is an entrenched clause. It reads, subject to the provisions of this article, a political party is free to participate in shaping the political will of the people, to disseminate information on political ideas, social and economic programs of a national character, and sponsor candidates for election to any public office, either than to district assemblies or lower local government units. Now, President Akufo-Addo leads the Yes campaign.
When the referendum is held, along with the district assembly elections, to decide whether or not we should move one step further in the consolidation of democracy in our country. The time has come for us to move forward and bring greater and more effective progress to our country. So I'm asking all of you, on the 17th of December, when you go to vote for the district, for your members of your district assembly, to also vote in the referendum. The referendum, the Constitution requires that 40% of the people turn out to vote and 75% vote yes. I am confident that in Akachi, the turnout will be even more than 40% and the vote is going to be more than 75%.
Ahead of that, though, Parliament is expected to vote on a bill which will amend Article 243 of the Constitution, taking away the power of appointment of MMDCs from the President to give to the electorate. And Article 243 reads, there shall be a district chief executive for every district who shall be appointed by the President with the prior approval of not less than 2/3 majority of members of the Assembly present and voting at the meeting. The election of MMDCs is one of the promises made by the Akufo-Addo-led government. Now, until a few weeks ago, it was almost certain the Yes campaign in the upcoming referendum was virtually home and dry, until a No campaign threw a spanner in the works and appears to be mounting a formidable opposition. We're joined in the studio in a bit by Josephine Nkrumah, who is the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, who will hopefully clear all the confusion. Before then, though, let's hear from some of the people who have expressed an opinion on the matter. Former Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Professor Kwamina Hoy, is one of those who recently joined the No campaign. He and the other No campaigners argue that the framers of the Constitution deliberately kept political parties out of the local government system so that it would not be tainted by the partisanship that is taking over national politics.
You see, this is the confusion that the government is deliberately introducing. They deliberately, and their supporters, they deliberately confuse the issue of electing DCs with making the district assembly system partisan. Article 55(3), which we are voting on, simply says that parties can sponsor candidates to district-level elections. It doesn't say that parties can sponsor candidates, can sponsor DCs. To elect DCs, you have to amend Article 2431, and they know it well. The reason they are introducing that confusion, and it is the President Akufo-Addo himself who created that confusion, is because they know people like DCs to be elected. But they also know people don't like the partisan district assemblies. So they create the impression that by voting to make the system partisan, you are voting to have DCs elected. It is not true. So when I say that the first time we are applying it is 2023, I mean that's the first time we'll be applying it to elect district assemblies, not DCs, because 55(3) will not make DCs electable. What will make DCs electable is 243 clause 1. And they know that that one requires 2/3 majority of parliament. It doesn't require a referendum.
Are you suggesting that Parliament will not get the 2/3 majority required on Thursday to amend 243?
I don't know. I'm not a parliamentarian. But I can well imagine that it may not.
So last week when we spoke to Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Executive Director of IDEC, what he admitted was that the referendum, and if a yes vote is gotten, it's not the end of the process. It actually begins the process of reforms which will accommodate all of these things you're talking about.
I keep bringing your attention to Brexit. Isn't that what Brexit is all about? They said, oh, let's vote leave or remain. Once we have done it, the rest will be accommodated. Have they been accommodated? Look at the confusion in UK governance now. That is precisely what we are trying to prevent in Ghana. That, let us look at all the consequential matters. Let us reach agreement on them so that we all know that when we vote yes, this is how these matters are going to be addressed. But you don't ask me to go and vote when I don't know what is going to happen after I have voted.
Now, government, on the other hand, believes some of the groups campaigning no are doing so for their parochial interests. Majority Chief Whip Kwesi Ameya Treme says such persons are only seeking to maintain foreign sponsorship for sensitization when local elections remain non-partisan. He spoke with the media at the National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana Training Program for Assembly member aspirants in Kumasi.
Not every NGO or civil society or any individual, but I say some of them, you know, because the current system, we say, is non-partisan, they can go to funding agencies, organizations that have funds to give, and say that we are going to mount education for these people in this area or that area or this section of people, either women or people with disabilities or men or thereabout. And some of those people think that their source of funding will be in danger, imperiled, with the participation of political parties. Because some of those funding agencies will not give you money to go and train political parties. You hold a district assembly election, and we say it is non-partisan, and how many people turn out to vote. We have recorded under 20 before. The highest we have ever had is 43%. So you ask yourselves, if political parties were involved, you'll be able to mobilize majority of the voters to go and vote.
Head of the local government service, Nana Tuatha, is of the opinion the country is already split all the way down to the assembly level already.
If this country is divided, it's divided. Where is the division? When you go to assemblies, NDC and people are there. Are they divided? Is it divided? When you go to parliament, MPP and NDC are there. Are they divided? I don't think it's going to divide this nation. Rather, it will strengthen democracy at the local level.
Right, so as I indicated earlier, joining us in the studio this evening is Josephine Nkrumah, who's a chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education. Thank you very much for making time to be with us. And I also have in the studio with me the head of the political desk here at Joy News, Evans Spencer. Evans, and I'd want to start with you, Evans. I want you to trace the chronology of all of this. Until a few weeks ago, we thought that the yes vote or the yes campaign was home and dry, and that everybody else, or most people, were going to vote for a yes overwhelmingly. It turns out that the no campaigners have emerged, and they're turning the tide.
A lot of things were taken for granted. In fact, a lot of people thought December 17 done deal. I think the major concern for most people until very recently was, can we get was it 40% of people to turn out, and then out of that get the required constitutional percentage to vote yes for it. That's the only concern people have, trying to get people to go out and vote. And I remember the first person to mention to me, and it was on my show PM Express, that they actually quiet no campaigners was Dr. Emmanuel Akwete. I said, really? And he said, yes. There are people in the background, the shadows, who actually had posters, and he showed me one of the posters, but they were not front and center. They had not shown their faces in terms of the aggressive campaign that we are now beginning to see. Yeah. And then something on Newsfile, before that, he had written about it and thought we should vote no. But 2 weeks ago, the concern, even NCC had the same concern about the people's misconstruing of what was going to happen on 17 December, was the main concern for advocates of the yes vote. Dr. Akwete, IDEC, and co. then started writing about it to say, guys, 17th December is not about election of MMDCEs. When that education started coming up, then the no voters started saying, well, that is a deliberate misinformation, so the two are separate. We are going to vote no for the referendum and push rather for the parliamentary amendment for that really is the one that would take the president's power away from appointing MMDCEs. Yeah. That is when this started becoming a thing. Mainly for me, it was something who, because of course it's public posture, who gave it a bit of life. And then the NDC entered the arena, and then that really changed it all. And so where we are right now, it's really a tough one for the yes campaigners, because now it's split on NDC MPP lines. Prior to now, even the local government minister who spoke on my show a couple of days back, she was convinced up until now that she had the NDC on her side going into 17 December. Right,
so you're talking about the fact that the no campaigners have emerged, and they have emerged strongly.
Very strongly.
But what has also happened is that it's left a number of people confused.
More confused.
Yes, and we've been speaking to members of the public, and we'll be sharing their thoughts with you. But this is where I come to you, Josephine Nkrumah. You being at the National Commission for Civic Education, I know that you've been out there doing some outreach. What are people expecting to vote on when they go to the polls on December 17?
Well, I must say that from very early on, we noticed that a lot of people assumed that the referendum was to elect MMDCEs. And so at each point in time, wherever we were given the platform, we would reiterate that it's not for the election of MMDCs, that it's a separate matter being undertaken by Parliament to amend Article 243, and that the national referendum is actually to determine whether we want to see multi-party participation in local governance. So that is what it was. But then we realized that as we went on, you were having more pronouncements about the election of MMDCs, the referendum to elect MMDCs, and we realized that, hang on a minute, this is confusing, because for us, the key thing is even the question, the referendum question as it is, if somebody goes to the polls and doesn't see that question, doesn't see a question that alludes to the election of MMDCs, that in itself would cause confusion, and people will say, well, I didn't come to vote about this, I came to vote for MMDC. So we thought it was important to reiterate the point and clarify that position. So and it went more pronounced, and so we had in the media space, and people just touting it. Last week it was in the Times, everywhere, and we said, no, we need to put out a statement and clarify this position.
Right. So clarify it for us here and now. What is it that when people go to the polls on December 17th, what are they going to find on the ballot paper?
They're going to find three things. There's a first ballot to elect our unit committee members, and on that ballot you have up to 5 persons that you can vote for. And then you're going to have the second one, the election of your assembly member in your electoral area. And the third one, in relation to the referendum, where the question is put, whether you want to see political parties participating in local governance. So 3 things are required of us. You vote for your unit committee member, you vote for your assembly member, and then you vote yes. When you vote yes, it presupposes that you want to amend, you want to see Article 55(3) being amended, and the implication is that it will allow political parties to participate in local governance. If you vote no, then it means that you want the status quo to remain and you would not like to see political parties participating in local governance. That is required of the citizenry. So that is that cleared. So December 17th, anything to do with election of MMDCs has nothing to do with the citizenry. We are not going to elect, we are not going to vote on that matter. That matter is being catered for by Parliament, because the article that must be amended to take away the powers from the President and give to the electorate is a non-entrenched provision, which means that constitutionally it's the parliamentarians have the power to amend that article. And that Article 243 is what is before Parliament. Now, when Parliament amends, let's assume that Parliament amends this article, it means that Ghanaians would now be able to vote for their MMDCs. So whether or not there is a referendum, the change would be Ghanaians would now be allowed to elect their MMDCs, and therefore you would be putting the MMDCs in the same category as the unit committee and assembly members. Now, come December 17th, the question is then posed, how would you like to see this done? Would you like to see it done along partisan lines? Would you like to see parties participating? And that is when you would cast your vote to say, yes, I want to see it, or no, I don't want to see it. I want the status quo to be that local governance is without multi-party participation.
But then it also means, from what you're explaining, that the decision or the amendment to the bill or the constitutional clause that Parliament is going to undertake is likely to impact on the December 17 referendum one way or the other. Because if they vote and they say, they get a 2/3 majority saying that, yes, let's have MMDCs elected, and if you're going to the polls, as you're saying, when you're voting a yes, you're voting a yes to have MMDCs, unit committee members, and assembly members all elected.
By multi-party. Or if you say no, then we're going to remain as local governance, as Article 55(3) says, that political parties cannot participate in local governance.
Now, there's the bit too about the processes that are supposed to kick in after the amendment to the Constitution by Parliament and then the referendum, and I would want us to come to that. But we've also been speaking to some members of the public, and they will tell us, or the thoughts they express tell us, that there is really the confusion amongst the people. Let's listen to them when we come back into the studio.
I'll say the good in the sense that you see, like the MCC, when the political parties or the individuals vote for the MCCs, on 4 years, I think they will know that it is the people who voted for them. So within that 4 years, they will try to do their best. But when the government gives them that opportunity, they can do whatever that like. So the same as this in the assemblyman too, I think it will be good for us to say yes and amended this in the Constitution.
I don't know, actually, I don't know. I guess I have to take time and get to know what is involved actually. Then I'll know where to stand.
Are you aware of the upcoming referendum?
No, I'm not aware. I don't know anything about referendum. Referendum, no, I don't have any idea about that.
They said they are going to vote for yes and no of AMC or so. And I don't know what does that mean. And to elect the assemblymen also. Yeah, that's what I know of that memorandum that they are talking about.
Yes, I'm aware. It's a trench position in the Constitution, which empowers the president to appoint district chief executives. But it seems it's giving the various president or the various governments giving them problems. So they have amended that Article 55 or so of the Constitution, that the constituency, the people themselves will elect their own district chief executives.
All right, so you heard from members of the public there, and Madam Nkrumah, from what you've heard, it tells clearly that there's still a lot of work for you to do.
Yes, yes. There's still quite a bit of work for us to do, and we continue to engage the citizenry very rigorously on the ground. And I can tell you that the confusion is clearing. I was in OT region all of this week, and most places you went to, people have an idea they're going to vote. So it's one thing, something, oh, we're going to vote to elect our MMDCs, and then something, oh, we're just electing our unit committee, and you know, so there's all of this, but we are beginning to tweak our messages to bring more clarity to it, because you then realize that, no, we need to maybe simplify how these are, so people understand that when it comes to 2431, the amendment to have our MMDCs elected is clearly a matter for Parliament. And then when it comes to the referendum, it's clearly a matter for the citizenry to decide whether they want to see multi-party democracy practiced at the local government level. I'm sure as we go on, we would see more clarity and more of the citizenry beginning to appreciate it. The unfortunate thing is that now you have, you know, the same partisan issues arising where you have the two parties taking entrenched positions, and so perhaps you're going to see the typical things where, okay, this party supporters will toe this line, those party supporters. But that is the sadness of all of this, because district level elections, it really is at the heart of development. And for the longest time, all of us haven't taken that particular election very seriously as we ought to. But as we keep telling people, and especially reaching out to women's groups and business, we say that this is really what touches you day in, day out. Whether you have adequate CHIPS compound, whether you have boreholes, whether you have potable water, whether you have a good classroom block for your child to sit in. All of these is what kind of roads you have, what kind of sanitation. These are the things that touch us daily, and therefore these are the things that we should be concerned about. Okay. So we're coming to that paradigm where I think people are beginning to appreciate the importance of district level elections. And perhaps this is why you're even having all of this talk about, should we vote yes or should we vote no?
Which is why we're having this conversation in the first place. Now, Evans, I want to come to you now. We know that there are a number of processes that are supposed to kick in after the referendum. Can you just walk us through what to expect?
So it's even after the 17th of December, it's not going to be automatic that once let's assume that a yes vote carries the day, meets the constitutional threshold of turnout, and then out of that turnout, that percentage of people vote yes for it. If that is what happens, it's going to take at least a whole year for the electoral. This is the thing that we forget. The referendum and what will happen in Parliament is just one or two pieces of things that must happen legally for the MMDCs to be elected. There's a whole raft of amendments that would have to be done post the 17th December, because we are fundamentally changing the structure of local governance, but there are other laws that are not in the Constitution that must also be amended to conform to the changes that we are making in the Constitution. And so it is a long road ahead. By all means, this is going to cost a lot of money. The NDC's position is that the 17th December one, because of what you need to do post 17th December, the roadmap, all the amendments you have to do to the other laws to bring in conformity to this fundamental changes you're making in the Constitution, cut out the referendum, save money, amend the one that you can do in Parliament, and then use that money to then make the fundamental changes you require to bring all the laws now in conformity with the changes that would have happened if Parliament votes 2/3 to amend the Constitution. That is a fundamental position. So you're right. There must be a roadmap post 17th December, provided the yes vote carries the day. If the no vote carries the day,
if the no vote carries the day,
nothing
on
has
the
changed.
assumption that you have MMDCs are going to be elected by the citizenry, a lot more would need to be done as well, because the MMDC would not be taking instructions from central government. The MMDCs would even begin, there's a whole new framework of transparency and accountability to the people, and we should have a national policy that addresses it. And then let's assume that it's a no vote. Now we need to face the fact that whether we like it or not, we do see this partisanship already being practiced clandestinely. But then what steps do we take to insulate the district level or the district assembly from political party intrusion? Because if the no vote carries, it actually means that Ghanaians don't want it there. So what do you do to ensure that they are kept as a unit that is separate from, that is not, influenced by political party activity? If it is that it is a yes vote, for me, the national policy must be also address issues about the very things that create the fear why people are saying we don't want to see political parties at district assembly level. The so-called divisiveness, polarization, the delegates capture, all of these things. What do we do to ensure that at that level we implement real policy, real rules and regulations that ensure that political parties become true development agents?
Now, what's the level of turnout that's required to let this pass?
To let
the referendum pass?
So for the referendum, firstly, we need a 40% voter turnout of registered voters to show up on the day and to cast their vote.
Does it look likely?
Yes.
And then after that,
you need 75%
of those who voted
to vote in favor of the proposed amendment, which means that if you get your 40% voter turnout and you get 74% who say yes, you still can have that change.
Here's a big spanner in the works.
Yeah.
Historically, all district level elections, we've never had 40% turnout.
That is post on the Fourth Republic.
Yes, on the Fourth Republic. Fourth Republican Constitution, under the Fourth Republic. We've never had 40% turnout in district level elections. So that is a big hurdle. If they are to do it on December 17th, it will be the first time since 1992.
I'm hoping you would come out to vote. You would come out to vote.
So you see the challenge in front of them. History says this is not possible. And now you have a problem of the NDC saying vote no. That, in fact, the last time I posed this question to the campaigners for yes, they were confident that this time they can get people more than 40%, 40 or more to go and vote because the parties were united. That's the confidence level they were riding on until now. So that plank, that thing that was given the confidence that for the first time we can hit 40 and above is no more there.
All right, let's give Madam Nkrumah the opportunity to campaign to the people to come out to vote, because you're not taking a position.
Yeah, I'm not taking a position. Well, we've come to a junction in our district level elections, and I think going forward, if we all understand the essence of district level elections or understand the essence that development is really at the district level, and it touches every single one of us, whether you're riding in your car to the house or to work, whether you have water running through your taps, whether you have electricity, street lights, all of these things touch the essence of our daily living. And so it's important for all of us to go out and vote.
All right.
That is the first step. The second step is, again, we've come to that crossroads where we have to determine where we would like to see our district assemblies go. Do we want to have political parties coming all the way down to participate in driving development, or we think that this is not the time? If you don't come out to vote, somebody else would be voting. So everybody has got to come out and vote. Take a position, take a stand, come out and vote.
And Evans, is it a yes or a no?
I also can't, because
Oh, you're confused.
No, I'm almost in the NCC's position. And the reason the NCC is not taking a position is for good reason. They have to be neutral and get people to go out and vote. I sit in a position where I host all the sites. It will be wrong for me to, because my opinion can influence somebody's, right? And then I'm hosting people who are disagreeing on yes or no. I think it's not fair. So I don't have one yet. I'll make up my mind, of course, as we approach.
Israel, if I can just, yes, if I can just say, urge media houses to, in their reportage, to be very specific in this clarification, because this has somehow compounded the problem. Right. And as we've gone out, we find out that they'll begin, oh, okay, so this is what it actually is. And people as enlightened as you expect them to be have all been confused. So media plays a huge role in this. So media should really help us in advocating that clarity, that clarification, and allow people to go and make informed decisions.
So what's the clarity? 17th December, you're going to vote yes or no to allow parties, whether or not to allow parties in local level elections.
Yes.
Simple.
That's it.
Yes.
And then there is another one, which is Parliament. Parliament, again, because the parliamentarians are representing you, you can make your feelings known to your MP. That is coming to Parliament. The minister says next week, Thursday, they would, 2/3, vote to either take the president's power to appoint MMDCEs or leave it as it is. And so again, in your constituency, depending on what you want done, get to your MP know.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, Evans Mensah, head of our political desk here at Joy News. And Josephine Nkrumah, who is the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority challenges figures reported by Joy News on the extent of import duty lost to the state as a result of under-declaration of clinker imports, adding that their side of the story was not told. The producers, however, maintain otherwise.
Bulk operators, yes, I will accept that we don't have the kind of weighing bridge that can establish the gross weight of the bulk that is coming through our ports.
We're hearing from the producers in a bit. And the minority in Parliament demand government distributes the over 40 ambulances procured and parked in front of Parliament House.
If you park the ambulances like we have done, I think that we are doing a disservice to the country. We are giving the president, because the bus will always stop at the president, maximum 3 days to distribute the ambulances.
Stay tuned in. We'll be bringing you business news in a bit. Now, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority is the latest to respond to a Joy News expose indicating how the state lost more than $100 million through the under-declaration of imported clinker by cement manufacturing companies over a period of 5 years. A leaked national security report cited by Joy News is quoted at a reveal that the Tema integrated ports have no weigh bridges for weighing bulk imports, and therefore rely on the cement manufacturing companies to ascertain the quantity of clinker imported into the country. Now, the National Security Report showed only 895,519 tons of clinker was declared by the cement companies, manufacturing companies in 2018. The report estimated that the amount of clinker imported in 2018 ought to have been 3.15 million tons. But the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority says the figures are not accurate. Malik Dabu, the head of our investigative desk, will join me shortly. In fact, he's joined me in the studio. But before I come to him, let's watch this.
The annual consumption of cement in Ghana is estimated to be 5 million tons per year. That's according to the 2018 statistics from the trade information website GhanaTrade.com. Leaked files from the National Security reveal that in the last 5 years, there has been a significant and steady increase in the quantities of clinker imported by cement manufacturing companies into the country, Data from the Ghana Shippers Authority reveal that 1.8 million tons of clinker was imported in 2014, 1.2 million in 2015, 1.4 million in 2016, 1.9 million in 2017, but 895,519 in 2018. In 2017, 2 more cement factories went into production, increasing the country's capacity. This should have normally have resulted in an increase in the importation of clinker in 2018. Out of the estimated 5 million tons of cement consumed in 2018, 4.5 million tons was produced locally, given that clinker constitutes 70% of the composition of cement. The national security documents show that the amount of clinker needed for the 4.5 million tons of cement produced locally in 2018 ought to have been 3,150,000 tons. However, less than 1 million tons of clinker was declared by the cement manufacturing companies.
I would say that as far as we are concerned, we are not losing revenue. Now, the bulk operators, yes, I will accept that we don't have the kind of weighing bridge that can establish the gross weight of the bulk that is coming through our ports. But we have a system. First of all, the lines would have to provide the manifest. And the manifest contains the details of the cargo that is coming. Its nature, its tonnage, weight, as we will put it, and then other details for the cargo. So first of all, the shipping line provides us with the manifest, and we have the weight or the gross weight of the bulk cargo that is coming into the port. And then when the bulk cargo arrives, like you mentioned for the cement products, where we are looking at Gasem, Dangote, and the new ones, CIMAF, and all those that have come on board in recent times, we have 2 other ways of establishing the weight and confirming with what came on the manifest.
Right, so Malik Dabu, who heads our investigations desk, is here with me in the studio. So we've just heard an official of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, but if you look at the statement, in fact, since the report went out, we've had some reactions. The latest to react is the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and in their statement that they put out, they indicated that we failed to speak with them.
Absolutely, and it's quite curious because the same lady we just watched who spoke to us as part of gathering information for this story was the one who signed the statement, and she's general manager in charge of marketing and corporate affairs at the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. She signed the statement. She gave us this interview before we actually aired the story, and we aired her views relating to this matter as part of our airing of the story. But this statement essentially was saying that the figures we put out, which figures we sourced from a leaked national security documents, are not accurate, except that if you look at the figures they themselves put out, we relying on the national security document and relying on the Ghana Shippers Authority's manifest. Right. And this Shippers manifest gives us a detailed breakdown of all the bulk imports into the country in 2018 and what quantities they were. Now, it's important to note that she herself admitted in that interview with Kwetenete that the ports do not have weigh bridges, both at Tema and at Takrady. And indeed, apart from her, we actually spoke to the Ghana Standards Authority, and we spoke to the Tema sector commander of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. All of them confirm that these weigh bridges do not exist.
Okay, so how do they ascertain the figures that they've put out in the statement?
Unfortunately, we do not know. What they tell us is that they rely on multiple sources. Of course, we also relied on Shippers Authority data. And because they don't have these weigh bridges, they rely on the cement manufacturing companies to go and weigh their clinker and then give them back whatever information, the weight on the basis of which they can calculate whatever taxes that are due the state. National Security's argument is that if you look at what figures they had as far as declaration for the quantity of clinker imported into the country in 2018 are concerned, vis-a-vis the quantum of cement that was consumed in that year, it is not possible that the figures that are contained in the Shippers Authority documents are accurate, except that there was under declaration. And then on the basis of that under declaration, they made a calculation and arrived at the amount of money that have been lost. Another thing we have to note is that the cement manufacturing companies themselves, when they responded to our story, put out a figure of 3.4 million tons of clinker imported into the country in 2018. Now, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority put out 3.7 million. That's a difference of more than 300,000 tons of clinker. Now, if both institutions were relying on a credible source for their information, how is it that they are giving us conflicting figures as far as the quantity of clinker imported into the country is concerned?
So then there lies the confusion, because the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has one set of figures and the Cement Manufacturers Association is also putting out one set of figures. So they have, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has 3.7 metric tons of clinker. The CEO of the Chamber of Cement Manufacturing Companies, Reverend Dr. George Dawson Amua, who also responded, said that it was 3.4. How is that? Is the Ghana Shippers Authority able to reconcile all these figures? Now that the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has one figure, the cement manufacturers also are putting out one figure. It's the Ghana Shippers Authority. As far as they are concerned, this is the quantum of things that they have, and we don't have time to go through them. They've listed alumina, bulk cement, coke, clinker, bulk fertilizer, bulk wheat, limestone, other bulk grain, other dry bulk. These are the things that they have listed. For each of them, the quantities that were imported into the country in 2018 was stated. That of clinker was what we put out, 895,519 tons. All right. From what you're telling me, it looks like the job is not done. We probably have to go back in there and try and find out where these discrepancies are. Thank you very much, Malik Dabu. Malik Dabu is head of the investigations desk here at Joy News. Moving on, the minority in Parliament is demanding government distribute the over 40 ambulances procured and parked in front of Parliament House in Accra. Ranking member on Parliament Health Committee, Kwabena Minta Kando, said while the ambulances sit idle, the number of Ghanaians who die due to the non-availability of vehicles continue to rise. Kwesi Parker Wilson has more in this report.
These ambulances were procured by the minister responsible for special development initiatives, Howard Commission, and this as in fulfillment of the president's promise of one ambulance, one constituency. Since its arrival in September this year, in fact, if you check the vehicle, the medically equipped vehicles, the dates are on it and it indicates when it was imported into the country. The date on the ambulance tells me that it was imported on the 11th of September 2019, and this was to boost the operation of the National Service Ambulance and also improve the health care delivery in the country. Now, the ambulance has a siren on top of it, and of course, if you go into it where the driver sits, there's a telephone installed there, probably to receive calls as and when their services are needed. Now, these ambulances have been sitting here since they arrived in the country, and the minority is worried. They think that people are losing their lives on a daily basis because of the lack of ambulances, and they are questioning why government would procure these ambulances, 48 of them, which sits idle here at Parliament House. Ranking member on the Health Committee, Kwabena Minta Kando, has given government 3-day ultimatum to quickly distribute these ambulances to the various constituencies.
If you buy ambulance and you pack the ambulances without serving its purpose, how will the country benefit from the ambulances? And I've heard from the minister in charge of special initiative, and she says that they are going to do the distribution in 2020. From now, and in fact, from the time these ambulances were parked here till 2020, do you know the number of people who would die because they could not get access to ambulances? So, as a matter of urgency, we are calling on the president to immediately distribute the ambulances that are available so that they could serve their purpose. If you park the ambulances like we have done, I think that we are doing a disservice to the country. We are giving the president maximum 3 days to distribute the ambulances.
Director of Communications for the governing NPP, Yabwabena Samoa, who is also a member of parliament for Adentan constituency. He disagrees with the minority and, of course, the ranking member on the health committee, Kwabena Minta Akando.
As we speak, there are several in the port which are yet to come out, and there are some on the high seas which haven't arrived. But the most critical thing is that certain features, particularly trackers, must be put on them before they are released. And the government is on the ball and working towards that. This has been said ad infinitum, and I am surprised that the minority chooses to come out with these theatrics. The object of the minority ought not to be to create situations that don't exist.
The minority insists that government is risking the lives of so many Ghanaians at the expense of electoral victory. I am Kwesi Parker Wilson, reporting for Joy News, Parliament House.
There's a worrying trend that parents may be contributing to what doctors say is the increasing rate of type 2 diabetes among children as young as 9 years. Type 2 diabetes accounts for 90% of the 600,000 cases reported in Ghana in 2018. Joy News Health Desk puts the focus on lifestyle trends accounting for these figures. Matilda Omega has more in this report.
We think our lifestyle is changing and it is affecting, the incidents.
Children are also getting involved.
Children are being affected because children don't play anymore. Children want to sit behind a TV and play football. Is that how to play football? I remember when we were kids, we used to go out and play hard. You sweat, and a child must be made to be active. You cannot allow your child to sit behind a TV all day and expect that that child will be healthy. It's not healthy for the brain, it's not healthy for the body. And so children must be made to be active. We must watch what we feed our children with. And these days you go to schools and it's like the normal looking child looks almost cachectic. You think that that child is rather malnourished because every other child is plump and obese. That's not right. So because our children are being exposed to inactivity and not so good foods, they are getting type 2 diabetes, which was in the past referred to as adult onset diabetes. Now children are getting it, and we have several children with type 2 diabetes. So we must encourage our children to be active. Wow. They should burn what they eat. If you don't burn what you eat, you store it as excess body fat or excess body weight, and then eventually that will predispose you to type 2 diabetes.
Okay. According to experts, in Ghana, family members are overburdened with the provision of material, financial, as well as emotional support to relatives who are diabetic. Everyone, children and adults alike, are at risk. Kenneth Kobena sees to it that his father-in-law does not miss out on his monthly clinic days at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. The old man has lived with the condition for over 10 years.
There is a lot of things it's not supposed to go inside the system.
Okay.
And that is what I check on him.
Okay.
Like, he should not take alcohol, he should eat on time. He should not eat too much food. It's normally eat, let me say, vegetarian.
My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.